I collapsed alone on my floor on my 70th birthday, fighting for breath. My hands shook so badly that the message for help went to the wrong person. My granddaughter I hadn't seen in 15 years. When she arrived at the hospital and I apologized for disturbing her, the look on her face told me everything I believed for years was a lie. My name is Evelyn Jackson, and I am 70 years old. If you had met me years ago, you might have seen a woman who kept her home warm, cooked every meal from scratch, and smiled without forcing it. But life doesn't always stay the way you expect it to. Sometimes it shrinks, slowly, until one day you look around and realize the world you built is gone, and you don't even remember when it happened. I woke up that morning, my 70th birthday, to the familiar chill pushing through the cracks of my apartment window. The radiator had stopped working 2 winters ago, and even though the landlord promised to fix it, promises in that building never meant much. I pulled my thin blanket tighter around my shoulders and sat up slowly, feeling every bit of the age I tried so hard not to show. My entire apartment was barely the size of the living room I once had in my old home. The one I lived in before my husband passed away. The one I lost when my son Anthony told me we had no choice but to sell it. 15 years. That's how long it had been since that house disappeared from my life, the same amount of time since I last saw my granddaughter Naomi. I shuffled to the kitchenette. Just a counter, a hot plate, and a fridge that hummed louder than it worked. I made instant coffee, the cheap kind, because that's all my monthly $300 allowance from Anthony allowed. My real social security was much higher, but that money never came to me. Anthony told me it was easier if everything went through him. I believed him. I trusted him. He was my son. I stood by the tiny window while the coffee steamed weakly in my mug. Outside, the street was wet from last night's rain, and people hurried past without looking up. Birthdays didn't mean much anymore, not when you spent most of them alone. On the little table beside my bed sat a shoebox pushed all the way to the back, a place I tried not to look at too often. Inside were years of letters I wrote to Naomi. Letters I never mailed because Anthony told me she didn't want them. He said she didn't want me. That lie shaped 15 years of my life. But on that quiet morning, I wasn't thinking about lies. I was just thinking about getting through the day. I ate half a bowl of soup, saving the rest for tomorrow, then moved slowly around my apartment, trying to stay warm, trying to stay steady. My body felt heavy. My hands shook more than usual. But I pushed through, just like I always did. I didn't know that by the end of that night, everything I believed, everything Anthony told me, would fall apart. I didn't know that help was coming from the one person I thought I had lost forever. I didn't know the truth was waiting to explode. But it all started with one wrong message. By late afternoon, the cold inside my apartment felt sharper than it should have. I had wrapped a scarf around my neck, pulled on 2 sweaters, and still couldn't stop the trembling in my hands. I told myself it was just age, just exhaustion, just another birthday no one remembered. But somewhere around sunset, my chest tightened in a way that felt different. Heavier, deeper, wrong. I reached for the tiny bottle of pills Dr. William Ford had prescribed the month before, but even getting the cap off felt like a fight. My fingers slipped once, twice. Then the bottle hit the floor and rolled under the table. I bent down, but the moment I did, a wave of dizziness crashed over me. I fell, hard, onto the cold linoleum. For a minute, or maybe longer, I couldn't move. My breath came fast, sharp, uneven. The room spun. The ceiling blurred. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. I tried to stay calm, but fear crept into my mind, slow and suffocating. I had been alone for years, but that moment was the first time I truly felt the weight of it. With shaking hands, I reached for my phone. My vision doubled, 3 icons then 4, but I blinked until I could see one. I pressed the message app, but my fingers trembled so violently that I typed the wrong name. Not Anthony. Not the neighbor. Not the emergency contact Dr. Ford told me to save. I somehow pressed on a contact I hadn't touched in 15 years. Naomi. Her name on my screen felt unreal. I hadn't seen her since she was a little girl, yet here she was, staring at me from the glowing rectangle I could barely hold. I tried to delete the message before sending it, but my thumb slipped. The message went through. Help. I can't breathe. The moment I saw it deliver, panic filled me. What would she think? Did she even remember me? Would she ignore it? Would she be confused? Would she think it was a mistake? Was I disturbing a life she built without me? But I didn't have time for more thoughts. The pressure in my chest grew tighter. My arms felt heavy. My breath grew shorter. My body began to give up. The phone slipped from my hand as darkness pushed in from the edges of my vision. I heard a faint sound, maybe footsteps upstairs, maybe just my heartbeat, but everything around me faded. The last thing I remember was the cold floor against my cheek, and the tiny hope that maybe, just maybe, someone would come. Someone I had loved all my life, even from a distance. Someone I thought I had lost forever. I woke up to the distant hum of voices, soft, blurry, floating somewhere above me. For a moment, I couldn't tell where I was. My body felt heavy, my eyes too tired to open. The sharp cold of my apartment floor was gone. Instead, something warm pressed against my back, and the faint smell of disinfectant filled the air. A hospital. I tried to lift my hand, but it barely moved. My breath came slow and uneven. Everything inside me felt fragile, like one wrong breath would shatter me completely. Then I heard footsteps, quick, worried, and a voice I didn't recognize. "Ma'am, can you hear me? You're safe. You're at St. Mary's." The words drifted past me like distant echoes. Another voice followed, gentler, closer. "Her vitals are stabilizing. Page Dr. Ford. Let him know she's awake." Dr. Ford. The only doctor who still treated me with kindness. I tried opening my eyes again, and this time, they listened. The light stung, the room blurred, but slowly, shapes began to form. A ceiling. A monitor. A curtain. A nurse with warm brown eyes leaned over me. "Ms. Jackson? My name is Olivia. You scared us, sweetheart." Her voice was soft but steady. The kind of voice you cling to when everything else is slipping away. I tried to speak, but my throat tightened. I didn't mean to bother. Before I could finish, the curtain beside me slid open fast. So fast that Olivia stepped back. And there she was. A young woman, maybe mid-20s, her curly hair pulled back, her expression tight with fear and disbelief. Her eyes, those same eyes I used to kiss goodnight, locked onto me. "Naomi." For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Her chest rose and fell like she had run the entire hospital hallway. Her hands shook as she stepped closer. "Grandma." The word hit me so hard I forgot how to breathe. I hadn't heard that word in 15 years. 15 years of silence. 15 years of believing she wanted nothing to do with me. My lips trembled. "Baby. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to send that message to you. I know you didn't want." She didn't let me finish. Her eyes widened, not in anger, not in irritation, but in shock. "Who told you that?" My voice barely rose above a whisper. "Your father. Anthony. He said you didn't want me around anymore." Naomi stepped closer, her jaw tightening in a way that looked painfully familiar. Just like her grandfather when he used to get angry at injustice. "Grandma," she said, her voice shaking, "I never said that. I never told him that. I never wanted you gone." Her words sliced through 15 years of loneliness. Before I could respond, she gently took my hand, careful, protective, hesitant, like she wasn't sure how fragile I was. "I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere." But there was something else behind her eyes. Something heavy. Something burning. Naomi wasn't just sad. She was furious. And when she finally spoke again, her voice lowered, filled with a calm I had never heard from a young person before. "Grandma, whatever my dad told you, I think he's been lying for a very long time." Her words sent a chill through me deeper than any cold floor ever could. I had no idea then just how deep those lies went. But Naomi already did. Naomi pulled a chair closer to my bedside, her hands still trembling slightly as she sat down. I could see her trying to stay calm, but her jaw kept tightening, and her leg bounced nervously, a habit she had even as a little girl. I used to tap her knee gently and tell her, "Sweetheart, still feet mean a still mind." She remembered. I could see it in her eyes. Nurse Olivia checked my blood pressure and glanced at Naomi in a way that told me she understood something serious was happening. After adjusting the 4-line, she gave me a soft smile. "I'll give you both a minute," she said, then slipped out quietly. The moment Olivia walked away, Naomi's expression changed. The softness faded, replaced by something sharper. Hurt, confusion, and years of unanswered questions packed into one look. "Grandma, 15 years?" Her voice cracked. "Why didn't you ever reach out? Why didn't you ever try to find me?" My chest tightened, not from the medical issue this time, but from the pain in her voice. "I did," I whispered. "I wrote you letters. Many letters. I asked Anthony to give them to you. I asked him if you ever said anything back. He told me." My voice broke. Saying it out loud felt like reopening a wound. "He told me you moved on. That you didn't want contact. That he was protecting you." The shock on Naomi's face was instant and cold. "Protecting me?" she repeated, almost laughing, but not from humor. "From you? Grandma, the only thing I needed protecting from was..." She stopped. She looked away. Her hand curled into a fist. I felt my breath catch. "From what, Naomi?" She exhaled slowly, steadying herself. "From him." The words cut through me like a blade. She leaned forward, voice low but controlled. "Grandma, Dad never gave me anything you wrote. Not one letter. Not one message. He never told me you wanted to see me. He told me you were the one who asked for distance." I closed my eyes. 15 years. 15 years stolen with one lie. Naomi wasn't done. "When Grandpa passed away," she said quietly, "everything changed. Dad started acting strange. Money came in, but bills kept piling up. He told me it was because you needed it. He said you weren't responsible with finances, so he had to handle it." I stared at her, stunned. "Naomi, I never saw a penny of that insurance money. I barely received my Social Security." She shook her head slowly. A realization sinking in that made her eyes widen. "Grandma, he took everything." My breath stopped. Everything. The house. The money. The insurance. My Social Security. Even the retirement payments meant to keep me safe. Naomi wiped her eyes with her sleeve, angry at herself for crying. "Dad always said you preferred living alone. He said you refused help. That you wanted your own place. I believed him. I believed everything he said." Her voice trembled, filled with guilt she didn't deserve. "If I had known you were living like this, if I knew you were cold, sick, hungry." I squeezed her hand gently, my strength small but enough. "You were a child, baby. None of this was your fault." Naomi inhaled sharply, forcing her tears back. But then her voice changed. It dropped lower, steadier, more dangerous. Grandma, if he lied about us, if he stole from you, then I need to know everything. Every detail. Every dollar. Every decision he ever made for you. Her eyes lifted to meet mine. Not with confusion anymore, but with determination. I'm not letting him get away with this. That was the moment I realized. The quiet little girl I used to read bedtime stories to had grown into a woman with a fire inside her. And that fire was about to burn through 15 years of lies. A soft knock sounded on the curtain before it slid open again. This time it was Dr. William Ford, his familiar gentle expression easing the tension in the room just a little. He walked in with his clipboard tucked under one arm, his glasses sitting low on his nose the way they always did when he was worried. "Evelyn," he said, voice calm but firm, "you gave us quite a scare." I managed a small smile. "I've always been dramatic, Doctor." He chuckled softly, then his face turned serious as he checked my charts, adjusting the settings on the monitor. Naomi sat beside me, silent but alert, watching everything, absorbing everything, as if she were gathering pieces to a puzzle she finally understood was much bigger than she imagined. Dr. Ford glanced at her. "You must be her granddaughter." Naomi nodded. "Naomi." He offered a warm smile. "She's lucky you came when you did." Those words made Naomi's throat tighten. I saw her blink fast, fighting another wave of emotion. Once Dr. Ford finished checking my vitals, he pulled the stool closer. "Evelyn," he said, "the shortness of breath, the dizziness, the collapse. These are signs of stress and malnutrition. Your blood pressure is unstable, and your iron levels are extremely low." Naomi stiffened. "Malnutrition?" she repeated, stunned. "Grandma barely eats? Why? She gets Social Security every month." The doctor and I exchanged a look. This was a truth she deserved to hear. My voice felt small, embarrassed, exposed. "I don't get my full Social Security." Naomi's brow furrowed. "What do you mean? You're entitled to over $1,000 a month at your age and status." I looked away. "Anthony handles it. He said the system changed, that the government kept most of it. He only gave me $300 a month." The silence that followed was thick. The kind that presses against your chest. Naomi stood suddenly, pacing in a small circle, her hands on her hips, her breathing tight. $300. Her voice rose, not loud but sharp. $300 to live on. For rent, food, medication? That's impossible, Grandma." Dr. Ford gently cleared his throat. "Miss Naomi, what she's receiving is far below the federal threshold. No senior can survive on that." Naomi's eyes filled with a fire I had never seen before. Did he take the rest? I didn't speak. I didn't have to. The truth had already formed in her mind. Dr. Ford placed a hand on my shoulder. "Evelyn, we'll run more tests tonight and keep you under observation. Olivia will check on you every hour." Before leaving, he turned to Naomi. "Stay with her. She needs stability. Stress is just as dangerous right now as any physical illness." When he left, Naomi sat back down, this time closer, her expression no longer sad, but focused. "Calculating." "Grandma," she said quietly, "I need to ask you something hard." I nodded. "Over the last 15 years, how much money did Dad take from you?" My breath hitched. The number felt heavy even thinking about it. "I don't know the exact amount," I whispered. "But there were years when things disappeared. Checks, cards, withdrawals I didn't understand. If I add what I know, it's somewhere between $60,000 and $70,000. Naomi closed her eyes, absorbing the blow. 60 to 70,000. Not millions. Not unbelievable. Not unrealistic. Just enough to destroy a life quietly, and make it believable in the world we lived in. When she opened her eyes again, I saw something new there. A decision. A line she was drawing in her heart. "Grandma," she whispered, voice steady, "he's not going to get away with this. Not anymore." Her hand wrapped around mine, firm, protective. And just like that, the 15 years of silence between us finally cracked open. What remained now was truth. And consequences. The room grew quiet again after Dr. Ford left, but it wasn't the same kind of quiet that usually filled my days. This quiet was tense, charged, like the air right before a storm breaks. Naomi pressed her palms together, thinking, really thinking, her eyes moving fast, her breath steadying as if she was slowly assembling the truth in her mind. Finally, she looked at me. "Grandma, I need to see where you live." My heart tightened. "Why?" "Because," she said softly, "I need to understand exactly what he left you with." Shame washed over me. Shame that wasn't mine to carry, but had lived on my shoulders for years. I hesitated. "It's not a place I like showing people." Naomi reached for my hand. "You're not people. You're my grandmother." Those words alone were enough to unravel me. I nodded. Naomi immediately stood, pulling her phone from her pocket. "I'm calling Karen Mitchell," she said, her voice steady and determined. The name surprised me at first. But then I remembered. Karen was the assigned social worker, the one who had quietly checked on me years ago, the one Anthony always claimed wasn't needed. The one he made sure I never saw again. Naomi pressed call. "Hi Karen, it's Naomi Brooks." "Yes, that Naomi." A pause. Karen's tone on the other end seemed shocked. Naomi continued, her voice lowering. "I'm with my grandmother right now. Yes, Evelyn Jackson. I need you to look into something. My dad has been controlling her finances for 15 years. Her social security, her survivor benefits, everything." Her jaw clenched. "She's been living on $300 a month." I could hear Karen's gasp even from my bed. Naomi nodded, listening intensely. "Yeah. I need everything you can legally pull. Records, deposits, withdrawals, authorization signatures. Anything tied to her name. And Karen, we're going to need an attorney." The next name she spoke sent a chill down my arms. "Call attorney Danielle Brooks." Danielle Brooks wasn't just any attorney. She was Naomi's aunt on her mother's side. A family woman with a reputation for fighting fiercely for elder abuse victims. After ending the call, Naomi exhaled deeply and sat beside me again. "Grandma, I'm not letting Dad hurt you anymore." I swallowed hard. "He's still your father." She shook her head immediately. "He stopped being a father the day he stole your life." Her words were heavy, too heavy for someone her age. But they were true. Before I could respond, Nurse Olivia returned with warm blankets and a cup of water. "How are we doing in here?" she asked with a soft smile. Naomi answered before I could. "We're doing better now." Olivia placed a gentle hand on my arm. "You're safe here, Miss Jackson. Just rest. Let us take care of you tonight." When she left, Naomi's voice softened again. "Grandma, after you're discharged, you're not going back to that apartment alone. I'm taking you home with me until everything is sorted." My eyes filled with tears I couldn't hold back. "Baby, I don't want to be a burden." Naomi cupped my hand. "You were never the burden." Her voice broke. "You were the one who was abandoned." The truth of that sentence echoed through me. And for the first time in 15 long years, I realized I wasn't alone. Not anymore. The next morning, after a night of constant monitoring, warm blankets, and the steady beeping of machines, I felt a bit stronger. Not well, but stronger. Naomi arrived before sunrise, a small coffee in her hand and determination written all over her face. "Grandma," she said gently, "Dr. Ford says you're stable enough for a short outing. I want to take you home to grab your things. After that, you're coming with me." Going back to that apartment made my stomach twist, but I nodded. It needed to happen. Nurse Olivia helped me into a wheelchair as Naomi signed the temporary discharge papers. Even Olivia leaned down and whispered, "You're in good hands. That young lady loves you very much." It made my eyes water. Outside, the cold morning air stung my face. Naomi helped me into her car, clean, warm, the radio low. Such a contrast to the world I'd been surviving in. The drive was silent for a while, until we reached the neighborhood I'd lived in for years. Naomi slowed the car, her eyebrows pulling together. "Grandma, you lived here?" The cracked sidewalks, peeling paint on the buildings, rusting mailboxes, windows covered with sheets instead of curtains. I felt small. Smaller than I had in years. "It's all I could afford," I whispered. "On the $300 a month Anthony gave me." Naomi closed her eyes, pain and anger mixing across her face. She parked and stepped out, helping me walk toward the old building. Every creak of the stairway made her grip tighten around my arm. When we reached my apartment door, I hesitated. This was the place I had cried into blankets to stay warm. The place I had watered down soup to make it last. The place I had written letters Naomi never received. I opened the door slowly. The dim light. The worn furniture. The single blanket on the bed. The half-empty pantry. Naomi stepped inside, her breath catching. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in a controlled, quiet way that showed the truth hitting her all at once. She walked to the fridge and opened it. Her jaw tightened. "This is all you had?" A carton of milk. 2 slices of bread. Half a bowl of leftover soup. And a small container of medication I'd been stretching for weeks. Her voice shook. "Grandma, this is neglect. This is abuse." I sank onto the edge of the bed. "Baby, I didn't want to bother anyone. And Anthony kept telling me things were tight. That I needed to be grateful. That he was doing his best." Naomi stared at me, stunned. "Grandma, he earns over $70,000 a year. He's not struggling." The words punched through me. All these years, I thought he was sacrificing for me. I thought he was helping me. I thought I owed him. But Naomi was right. None of this was a sacrifice. It was exploitation. She moved to the shoebox under my bed, the one I kept hidden. She pulled it out, opened it, and saw the stack of letters I wrote to her over the years. Her hands trembled as she lifted one. "You wrote to me every year. Every holiday," I whispered. "Every birthday. Every Christmas. Every time I missed you." Naomi sat beside me, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. "Dad told me you never tried. That you didn't want to see me. That you moved on." My heart broke, twice. Once for her, once for myself. She wiped her tears and inhaled deeply, straightening her shoulders. "Grandma, we're leaving. Take what you need. You're not spending another night here." I gathered the few things I owned, my coat, my old dress, my wedding ring, and a framed photo of Naomi as a child. Naomi held the box of letters close to her chest as if protecting them. When we stepped outside, she locked the door behind me, not as a goodbye to the apartment, but as a goodbye to the life I had suffered through. As she helped me into the car, she said in a soft, controlled voice, "After we settle you at my place, it's time we talk to attorney Danielle Brooks." The storm I had feared for years was finally turning in my favor. And Naomi, my granddaughter, was the one leading it. Naomi's apartment felt like another world compared to the place I had lived in. Warm lamps, clean air, soft blankets, the smell of fresh bread on the counter. It felt like stepping into a life I forgot existed. She led me to the couch, wrapped a thick blanket around my shoulders, and made me tea before sitting across from me. She wasn't rushing. She wasn't panicking. She was planning. "Grandma, Danielle is on the way," she finally said. "We're going to fix everything." Not long after, the doorbell rang. Naomi opened it to reveal attorney Danielle Brooks, wearing a dark coat, a leather folder under her arm, and the expression of a woman who had seen these kinds of cases far too many times. She approached me with a respectful nod. "Miss Jackson, I'm so sorry you've gone through this. Naomi told me everything." I nodded weakly. I trusted my son. Danielle pulled out documents, bank statements, benefit summaries, social security reports. She had already begun digging. "What your son did," she said calmly, "is classified as elder financial abuse. He diverted your benefits, controlled your income, mismanaged your survivor funds, and neglected your basic care. This is not only immoral, it's illegal." Naomi crossed her arms. "How long will it take to charge him?" Danielle opened the folder. "Naomi, I've already contacted the authorities. A case like this moves quickly. There is more than enough evidence for prosecution." My heart sank despite everything. He was still my son. He had been my child once, with little hands and a smile I used to kiss every night. Danielle seemed to understand. "Miss Jackson," she said gently, "you're not doing this to hurt him. You're doing this because he hurt you. And because what he did cannot be ignored." Naomi placed her hand over mine. "Grandma, it's time." For the first time in years, I didn't feel fear. Just truth. 3 weeks later, I sat in a small courtroom beside Naomi. My health was better, my weight slowly returning, my strength finding its way back. Anthony stood across the room, disheveled, embarrassed, avoiding eye contact. When the judge read the charges, Anthony's shoulders sagged. 5 years in state custody. 800 hours of community service. Mandatory restitution for every stolen dollar. The punishment wasn't vindictive. It was necessary. Naomi squeezed my hand as the judge continued. "This court recognizes that Ms. Evelyn Jackson suffered significant hardship due to the defendant's actions. Restitution is ordered without delay." When the session ended, Anthony glanced at me, a tiny flicker of guilt passing through his eyes. But Naomi stepped forward before he could speak. "Don't talk to her," she said quietly. "Not now. Not after everything." And for the first time, Anthony listened. Later that evening, back at Naomi's apartment, I sat in her warm living room with a blanket around my shoulders. The lights were soft, the tea warm, and for the first time in many years, I felt safe. Naomi sat beside me, laying her head on my shoulder the way she used to when she was a child. "Grandma," she whispered, "you're home now." My eyes filled with tears. Not from pain. Not from fear. But from relief. 15 years of lies had led me into darkness. But honesty, love, and courage had brought me out. I looked at Naomi, my granddaughter, my family, my light, and whispered, "Thank you for coming back to me." She smiled. "I never left, Grandma. I just didn't know how to find you." And that was the truth that finally healed everything. For the first time in a long, long time, I could breathe.